everyone. Before we get into this episode, could you please subscribe, follow the Breakup Diet? It really means the world, and it means I get to keep making these episodes. So if you could please do that, I would be forever grateful, and I hope you enjoy it. Welcome back to another episode of the Breakup Diet. Today I have a very special guest on, another Yasmine Gould.
And we're both Taurus too.
I know, what are the chances? And what do you do? Tell me about yourself.
I think of myself as an alchemist rather than a coach. And I essentially teach people how to use their emotional compass. So we obviously experience a very wide variety of emotions, and we seem to live in a society that programs us and manipulates us to avoid feeling the uncomfortable ones. And actually, they're really important information for us on how to make changes and movements in our life.
Like heartbreak.
Absolutely, like heartbreak. I think it's one of the most profound ones we've all experienced it at some point in our life or another, and sometimes it doesn't look like the stereotypical romantic sense. Some people are heartbroken by their parents or their children. And so I think really essentially what I do is I teach people how to use their trauma, their pain, their uncomfortable experiences, not only to their advantage, but I literally teach them how it's a catalyst and a vehicle to the highest version of yourself.
Buckle up, bitches. It's gonna get bumpy. This is the Breakup Diet.
And how did you get into that? Because most people obviously don't want to sit in it. Like in general, like you don't want to sit in pain. Like, is there anything that you just like were like, okay, I actually want to try help people?
Yeah, I think it was a really gradual unfolding. So, I mean, now I'm in my 30s, and from a very young age, this is going to sound so cliche, I knew I was different. We're all different. I don't want it to sound narcissistic. That's not how I mean it. What I mean is I didn't quite fit in. I was quite unusual. I was always a truth seeker from the age of 4. You know, it didn't really add up to me, the whole like Santa Claus story. And so I just kept picking at details of just, and then I went to school and told everybody once I'd found out that Santa Claus wasn't real. I was like, everybody, this is like, the adults are trying to get us to do things in order for Christmas presents. Santa Claus isn't real.
Okay.
And I think that has been, like I said, a theme throughout my life, like the seeking of
uncovering and like going deeper.
Continually going deeper. Yeah, absolutely. And ironically, my birth chart massively lends very well to this. I think that some of us are born to really explore and build certain things in life. Some people are born to build AI and further the planet in certain ways to do with technology, and other people are supposed to do that with food and agriculture. And for me, it was very clear from a very young age that not everybody was suffering in the same way. And I grew up with a single mom that was a teacher. And so one thing that I think my mum did really, really well was that there was never any conversation that was off the table. So I could ask my mum anything at any age. And she was very good at giving me age-appropriate answers for really big topics. So my mum, obviously being a teacher, I was asking her about things like child psychology and child abuse from a very young age. And I was asking a lot of questions about all sorts of things. And I wanted to know, well, why are some people abusive and why do some people get abused? Mm-hmm. And why do some people get treated like this and other people never get treated like that? Like, what is that about? I was reading and researching psychology and human behavior before I even really knew what that was. Sometimes even now I have clients that are therapists and psychologists, and they say to me, you know, I've got more on paper education than you, but I don't get it the way you get it. Why? And really, I think that the answer to that is because I've learned it and embodied it from such a young age, you know, so from the age of maybe 5 or 6, really, I was asking a lot of questions about human behavior and then throwing myself into studying that. As soon as the internet came around, it was, I needed to know why. Like, why do certain people do this? Why does this happen to certain people? What's the root cause? And not just the study of it, but then I started to look at the patterns around me, the patterns of behavior, patterns of experience. That came a little bit later. That wasn't happening when I was like 5 or 6, but a bit later. And so I just started to pay attention to patterns. And I think I threw myself into every sort of healing modality once I realized, hold on a minute, There's a lot of things that seem to keep coming my way, but nobody else that I know around my age is having any type of experience that's similar to this. And so then I started to look at what was I doing? What have I adopted? What am I doing that invites this? What is this?
What would you do for somebody that isn't like self-aware or doesn't really realize that they're living in this pattern of like basically self-sabotage?
Well, I mean, hindsight's a beautiful thing, right? And so I think one of the reasons that we work with a coach, a therapist, whoever, is because we all have blind spots, all of us, myself included, every single therapist. There's nobody on this planet that sees himself completely clearly. It's not possible because we have a human ego. Working with somebody that can point out your patterns to you is really important. So one of the things that I get a lot of feedback for from clients and from friends is that my ability I can hear a scenario and I can slice through it in seconds. So it's like I can hear a scenario of what's gone down and what somebody said. I can be like, oh, well, they feel like this. And it's very obvious to me. And I'm sure there's, many other sort of therapist types of people that can do the same too. It's very clear when you understand human behavior is a language. And even when you look at language in itself, if you think about the word dis-ease, this is an example I use a lot, dis-ease, a body that is not at ease. Disease doesn't exist in easy bodies that feel healthy, that feel taken care of, humans that are happy. Disease is not common there.
I've never thought of that. Sorry,
so
I'm like,
this is
wow.
how my brain works. I'm always looking at the nuances and everything. And it's just natural. I don't do it on purpose. I don't have to switch it on. This is just how I am. I can be walking down the street and I'll instantly know if there's like danger. I'm just hyper aware and hyper alert, and I would say that's probably a trauma response. Like I grew up in a household where I was sort of like walking on eggshells all the time, in constant fight or flight. Probably from the age of about 6 to 16, it was constant fight or flight in my household, and then the fight or flight continued after that too. And so I think that hyperfixation and hyper awareness is probably just a trauma response, but there's lots of people that've got trauma responses that have changed the world in a very positive way. So I'm not upset about it. But to go back to your question, what would I do for a client? If I'm working with somebody and we're trying, and let's say I can see something that they can't see yet. You just facilitate your questions to get them to look at the thing that they're not seeing. And sometimes they're not ready to see it. So one of the things that I notice when a lot of people they begin their spiritual awakening journey, as people call it, but I personally just look at it as you're reaching new layers of consciousness.
And that's what a life alchemist does.
I don't know. I've never met somebody else that calls themselves a life alchemist. I just feel like I'm not a coach and I'm not a therapist. I teach you how to transform. I teach you how to take what is uncomfortable and turn it into your power. And that is alchemy. So I don't know what else to call it. I don't want to be considered a coach. Okay. I don't think I coach people. You could maybe say a mentor. I don't necessarily know that I'm a therapist either. I'm someone that if you were trying to heal something in your life, I've done nearly every healing modality on the planet to excess. So if you want some shortcuts, I'm going to definitely be able to nudge you in the right direction. There's very little that I can't work with because I focus on energetic patterns rather than specific things. But let's say someone's in the thick of addiction, I wouldn't necessarily be the only person to help. You would need a whole team of people to help somebody that is at that level of dis-ease. Yeah, it depends where you're at. I work with a lot of people that are going through like significant changes in their life, or they're somewhere further down the spiritual awakening journey. Like they've already had a little bit of an introduction to pain transforming them. I work with a lot of people that are going through things like big breakups, divorces, their whole life changes. Like maybe they're living one place in a house and then they lose their job and they find out that, I don't know, their partner's cheated on them and they're going to have to leave, or, whatever it may be. I'm the sort of person that I'm going to come along and I'm going to hold your hand through that, and we're going to make it the best chapter of your life. I'm going to show you exactly how to take that pain and turn it into absolute gold. And I'm not going to do that by giving you any pills or by taking away your pain, but I'm going to teach you and facilitate it, make it easier for you to sit in it and pay attention to it. And then I'm going to teach you how to understand what it's saying to you.
Like you did stuff with astrology, you did plant medicine, you do, obviously patterns and trauma.
Yeah.
Are those like the main?
There's nothing that I don't really work with. So it just depends I'm very honest about. If somebody comes to me and I don't think that I can get the best for them, I'll refer them to somebody else that's got a better suited skill set, because my skill set is unique and unusual, but also quite broad. And sometimes also it's just not quite like a personality match as well. Like sometimes it's that like maybe they're a guy and there's certain guy things that they need to speak about that I won't be able to help them with simply because I'm not a guy, and that's okay. I listen to wherever they're at. And wherever they're at, it's just instinctive. I just know what to do with them. It's kind of like a hard thing to explain, I guess, but it depends what they come with. Let's say I've got somebody that's stuck in a relationship and they have been in the relationship for a really long time and they don't know whether they should stay in this relationship or not. Well, if you've been together with somebody for 9 years, that's a long time. There's a lot of things to unpack there. And so for people to identify, like, is this something that can change? Is this something I can be happy with? And a lot of the time people don't know themselves. They've just been stuck in a rut for years. And it's like when they got together, that person was perfect for them, but they've changed in ways that are different. And they don't even know really what they want anymore. So I always bring it back to self. I don't make the other person or anything outside of themselves the problem. We don't make anything the problem. We just look at what do we need to realign inside the person, because life is really quite simple, but it looks complex. So I have this saying where I say, the universe, she's your co-creator. She's your co-conspirator. And she is whispering to you, and then she's talking to you, and then she's shouting at you, and then she's screaming at you. And it's up to you how much you want to get screamed at. I used to always be feeling like the universe was shouting and screaming at me. And that's because I didn't listen to her when she whispered, and I didn't listen to her when she spoke. So then she had to give me louder experiences to be like, hello, you keep going in the wrong direction. This is not what you're supposed to be doing. And that's why this is uncomfortable for you. Stop doing that and it will get easier, And the other side of that is the universe, she speaks in this language. It's like binary. It's like, if I manifest a car that I want, and let's say I want a black Porsche Cayenne and I want top of the range, everything done to it. And I seem to get one that is top of the range, black, but it hasn't got anything done to it. That's, say, 70 to 80% of my manifestation. That's great. That's a really good manifestation. But if I'd accepted somebody giving me, I don't know, Peugeot 306 before that, well, if I say yes to that, then the universe is not going to give me the thing that I ask for.
Okay.
You see what I mean? It's like if I'm in a relationship with somebody that treats me in a way that I don't like, and I don't say anything about it, I don't set any boundary, and there's no consequence, well, I've said yes to it. So the universe, she's going to keep sending me more of it. I try to encourage my clients or people that I work with or anybody I speak to, don't think about that person did this or that person said that. That part is relevant for sure to think about it in that capacity. But you kind of want to think about it like, if the universe was using this human being or this experience or this situation to communicate something to me, what is she trying to say? And if you keep saying yes to behavior that you don't like, you're going to get more of it, because the universe doesn't understand yes, but. She understands yes, no. So if you say, no, I don't want that thing, or no, I don't want that behavior, she'll stop sending it to you because you've made it very clear you don't want it. You're in you're co-conspiring with her. You're making your life with her. So you want to be giving her very clear instructions about what you want, which means your words and your behavior need to match.
Yeah, I actually find that quite hard. I've had this discussion a few times, like on this podcast, where like I know all the things like you, in the ideal world, I could be like, oh yeah, I want this. But then I find it hard on putting what I really want and what genuinely in my soul feels better to take, and what I would not take, but like what I need. And then stuff that like I need but don't need. You know what I mean? Like really, I find that hard. So whenever I've like thought I'm manifesting, maybe this is completely wrong, but like I've tried to feel like, because what I've heard in general is like you try to feel what you want as well. So like, say for example, the partner that I would want is somebody that's like nurturing, supportive, there for me, motivated, like, you know what I mean? Like also like inspiring towards me too. That I know I want those qualities, but there's lots of other qualities that I also want, but it's like picking which one and then being very clear on those I find hard.
Okay, let me give you an exercise to do that I give to a lot of my clients. So I want you to create a list, and you're going to have a must-haves list, your compromisables, and your deal breakers. Your compromisables should be your biggest list. Your must-haves are things that you cannot go without. So for me, for example, any type of violence, like verbal violence, physical violence, is an absolute no-go. I will not have any type of violence in my house whatsoever. There'll be no screaming, no shouting, no throwing things anywhere. There'll be nothing like that. That's a deal breaker for me. It's absolute. You could be perfect for me in every other way, but if you do that, I cannot. So on my must-haves, they have to be like a loving and nurturing person, in the sense that like animals like being with them, kids like being with them, I could leave my grandma with them, etc. These are must-haves. That's not something I can compromise on. Neither of those things are compromisables. Things like I would prefer to have a tidy partner, but if you're really messy, but you're super nurturing and loving and kind and all the other things that I want, we can get cleaner. That's not a problem. I
Yeah.
can compromise on that.
Yeah.
So I want you to come up with a bunch of compromisables and your must-haves, and that's going to help you. Because then when you meet somebody, you're like, oh, that's something I can compromise on, but they've got all the things that I really, really, really want. And all the things that are deal breakers for me, they don't have. And that's how you fine tune it, because nobody is going to come ready made and you will not be ready made for anybody. It's an illusion. There's no such thing as the one. The one is you. I think the initial clarity is where I start with a lot of people. But also, you know, sometimes people come to me when they're on the floor trying to survive, and I have to build them a lot. I'll have to help build them before we can get down to like some of the more exciting, juicier parts. And it just depends when people find me, I guess.
When somebody is like in that really dark, struggling stage, what is something like a day-to-day practice that you could do? Obviously, every single thing is different depending on the situation and what it is. But what is something that like maybe a common thing that you suggest that people do to try to
really just
crawl back?
depends on, you know, like if I've got someone that's struggling to get out of bed every day and they're like on the edge and they feel like, you know, like death, we give them a to-do list every day, and it's you get out the bed, you throw your duvet back and you let it air. You open a window, you open the curtains, you let some light in. You brush your teeth, you take a shower, you change your clothes.
That detailed.
Because because every time you do a tick on your list, it rewires the brain.
Yeah.
So we make the details of just taking care of yourself. Because when you're at a stage in your life where you're so depressed that you wouldn't even mind dying, you can't even be bothered to make yourself food. Like it's so painful that your body and your mind is shut down. The fact that you're able to get up, open a window, air your bed, take a shower, change your clothes and brush your teeth, that's an achievement. For those people on the edge like that, that's an achievement. And so every day that you're ticking that off, it's like, okay, cool. Maybe now today you can put on a load of laundry and you can dry it. Fantastic. Okay, how do you feel about ordering some food? How do you feel about cooking yourself a meal? How do you feel about putting some berries in a bowl with some fruit and just sitting down and eating that and looking outside? And just, how do you feel about actually leaving the house today? Just depends where you're at, right? And if I've got someone that has got 3 kids and their husband's left them for another woman, or their husband found out they were having an affair, depends on the situation. I've got to think about the kids. I've got to think about what they need. I've got to think about what she needs, or he, depending upon who I'm working with. I work predominantly with women, but I have a fair few men that come my way. I really enjoy working with both. I have no real preference. And then, you know, so I have to go through the checklist. I have to think about what they have to think about. And then not only that, but then I'm looking at the outside picture. So if there's been violence before, we don't know how the husband's going to react to her having an affair. What do I need to ask her to help put into place things for their safety? Is there a risk that he could try and take the children? Is he going to close down bank accounts? Is she going to have access to finances? So I have to assess the whole situation.
Whole umbrella as such.
Yes. And I think, like I said to you earlier, my brain, the way it operates, the way it's so... it pays attention to details in ways that I don't really know anybody else that does it. It definitely exists for sure. There'll be other people that do it. I just don't know anybody else that does it. It's just my ability to scan and foresee and recognize human pattern behaviors. I ask a lot of questions. So I'll be on the phone. I'll be like, has your husband ever done this, 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 and this? What's his personality like? I also like to look at the chart as well, because there are certain things that you can see in certain people's charts that can definitely lean in certain directions, right?
Is the natal chart the same as the chart?
Yeah, birth chart,
Okay.
natal chart.
It's the same thing. Okay. And that's just when you're born and what's happening with like all the planet alignment. And
so we've got different areas of the sky that are named Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, etc. And where the stars are when you're born, your birth chart, at that particular minute that you're born, the way it's captured, that's your birth chart.
Okay.
So it just depends what the situation is. Sometimes it's as simple as, I've really gone through the divorce, I'm on my way up, but I'd really like to fine tune this and I want to make sure that I've got really good skills for finding the right person for my next relationship. Or I've had one before where it's like 2 best friends go into business and then they're really not having a good time, and they don't, like, it's been their best friend for 20, 30 years and that relationship's going to come to an end now and they don't know how to maneuver it and it feels very unfair. And basically,
friendship breakup or a work breakup.
Both. And also what happens then to the business, financial income. You know, a lot of people think things are separate. None of it's separate. You know, every time we go through anything that is emotionally challenging, it's designed to make you evolve. So when somebody is speaking to you from a triggered place and they are inviting you to meet them there, you know, like saying horrible things to each other, whether they mean it or not, your job is to invite them to meet you back up here and to not go down to that level, because nobody can make you feel angry that isn't there inside you. Nobody can make you behave in a way that's not you already. So if you're not happy with the way that you're showing up and your answer is, yeah, but they did that first and that made me do that, that's bullshit.
What you just said kind of reminded me of how people communicate differently. For example, I've never shouted or anything in a couple, but then I don't get that angry. Whereas like when somebody gets angry at me, my response is I go actually mute, like I can't speak, and it's the weirdest.
You go into a freeze state.
Yeah, I just don't speak because I know if I speak, it's gonna make them worse, and then it's better to like let them cool off and then talk. Is that me? Whether I'm knowingly doing that, is that like kind of meeting somebody when they're a bit?
That could be a couple of things. So part of that could be, so first of all, let's recognize that women are prey and men are predators. So if you think about like traits of prey, like if you think about rabbits are prey, right? What if they got really good hearing? Same with women, like women naturally are known to be awake for the baby, etc. Men can sleep through it more easily, stereotypically, right? Women are prey, men are predatorial. So there's an essence of certain things being built into women that we're more likely to run or freeze than fight back in a lot of instances. So when somebody is shouting or aggressive or they're triggered, that will naturally, for a lot of women, not all, but for a lot of women, will naturally trigger, you know, your fight or flight, your freeze responses, because fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of violence has now been activated in your brain. It's quite a natural thing for a lot of people, particularly the weaker person in the dynamic, to freeze and to not want to aggravate the situation. So there's a part of that could be instinct, and a part of that could be an inner knowing. You know, maybe you saw that growing up. Maybe if you saw anybody shout, you'd see the other person be calm and not do anything to further the dynamic in any particular direction. So there's, I mean, I don't know how you grew up, but yeah, there's a few things that could be going on there. And that doesn't make it right or wrong, good or bad. Personally, I don't think it's a bad way to be at all, to allow the other person to some space and time to calm down. But also sometimes people being quiet can be
bad too, yeah.
Well, it can be annoying for the person.
Oh yeah, they do normally
get some sort of reaction, you know?
They do normally
get more annoyed. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good or a bad thing, you know?
God, and do you think all the ways that you react will come down to basically early life?
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Yeah. That's not to say it'll all be the same, right? Like I'm sure we've all heard that story about the alcoholic dad that had 2 twin sons. I don't even know if you not heard it. It's
no,
like
not
there's a man that's an alcoholic. He has 2 twin boys. One grows up to be the opposite of what his dad was, and one grows up to be just like his dad. So it's choices, right? So you can, like, I grew up in a household that was very aggressive. And like I said to you, in my early years, like there was definitely a streak of aggression in me. I definitely wasn't like what I saw, but it was in there for sure. And ironically, there'd be certain things that certain people would do that would make me feel enraged the way that I saw demonstrated to me. And it was only through the work that I did on myself and knowing that I absolutely did not want to be like that. I did not want somebody else to have an experience with me the way that I felt with the people that I was experiencing that with. Right? So it was like, I know that I don't ever want to make anybody else feel like that, ever.
Mm-hmm.
So then that was when there'd be certain moments where I'd catch myself behaving in a certain way and I'd be like, this reminds me of what that person that does this to me, I'm being like them. I don't want to be like them. So it was a conscious choice and decision to then realize, okay, well, how do I fix this? Because this isn't normal.
It had to come from you wanting to do that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like you can take a cow to the water, you can't make them drink.
Yeah.
And so, you know, this is why I always say the behavior and the words have to match up. So like I get so many women come my way and they just don't understand the male brain. And it's like that, you know, they'll be seeing a guy on and off for a long time and the guy's not consistent, but when they're together, they have an amazing time and they can't work it out. And it's like, listen, Somebody's behavior tells you everything that you need to know. Words are cheap. Forget any text they've ever sent you, forget any word they've ever said to you, and look at what they do for you. Are they there for you when it's inconvenient for them? Because a man that loves you will be there for you when it's inconvenient for them. It's that simple. They will prioritize you. Like, it's really that simple. Rain or shine, money, no money, makes no difference.
Yeah.
Makes no difference. If a man wants you, you will know about it. It is that simple. And it's just like, a lot of people really grasp that. They get lost in the details. But again, if you know about human behavior, it's like if somebody comes in here right now with the winning lottery ticket numbers in German. I don't speak German, so it'd be useless to me. So if you don't speak the language of human behavior and psychology, you'll think you know, and you'll spend months wondering about something or someone. And then one day you realize something about human behavior and psychology, and you're like, oh my God, that makes sense. Yeah. And so I just spent my whole life doing that to offer you guys shortcuts so that you don't have to.
I love that. I think that's the best way to end this one, because that is the best. If you need a little cheat code, over to Yasmine.